Be me, 25, sociology grad. The one who never shuts up in class about how women carry the real weight. When guys complain about being stressed, I roll my eyes. What do they know about pressure? They don't have to juggle safety, expectations, or the endless grind of being taken seriously. My best friend Jake is 27 and works as an electrician. He's the funny one at every party, the guy who keeps his word, the one who never drinks too much so he can drive everyone home. If your IKEA shelf collapses, he's there with a drill before you finish texting him. We met in college improv club. He was the clown of the group, fast, loud, fearless on stage, and off stage wasn't much different. Quick one-liners, impressions, sarcastic comebacks. He could make a whole room cry laugh without breaking a sweat. Everyone leaned on him. He helped Maya when her car wouldn't start, walked Kara to her car at night if we stayed late on campus, even covered part of another friend's rent once. Never mentioned it again. That was Jake, the guy who had everyone's back. And in my head, that meant men had it easy. They were built for it. I'd tell my friends, Jake's broke half the time, but he still lives like life's a comedy show. Men just bounce back. They'd nod, sip their lattes, and agree. But there were cracks, like the time he joked about talking to girls on social media. Got left on read 37 times this month, he said with a grin. Guess I should change my Insta bio to professional backup plan. We laughed with him. I teased, "You're too picky." Later, when the conversation drifted, I caught him staring at the floor, and his smile was gone. Or the night he helped me move apartments. He carried my boxes up 3 flights of stairs, drenched in sweat, and brushed it off like nothing. Afterward, he sat on the curb, rubbing his back with a wince. "You good?" I asked. "Yeah, just getting old at 27, he said with a grin, and I laughed and posted a picture of him hauling a box with the caption, "Get you a friend like Jake," never thinking more of it. Sometimes he'd text late at night with stray lines. "Long day. Feels heavy sometimes. I don't know if I'm doing enough." I replied with, "You'll be fine. You always are." Because in my head, he was the strong one, the funny one. Men didn't break. One afternoon at Maya's place, we were scrolling headlines and she read one out loud. "Depression rates rising fastest among men under 30. She scoffed. "Please. Women have been carrying that burden forever." Kara chimed in. "Exactly. Men just discovered feelings and now it's a crisis?" Give me a break, I joined in without hesitation. "Yeah, if guys are so depressed, why are they still the ones out partying, making jokes, acting like life's easy?" The others nodded. To us, it felt obvious. Women had it worse, and men pretending to struggle just sounded like another excuse. But what I saw happening to Jake over the next few weeks changed everything. At first he started picking up extra shifts. My place is on the way home from his workplace, so he usually stops by to pass me snacks or come say hi, and he'd drop onto my couch with a groan, still in his work boots and a can of soda hissing open in his hand. "Guess I'll just move into the breaker room at work," he smirked, leaning his head back against the cushions. "Cheaper than rent, and the Wi-Fi's faster." I laughed, because that's what you did with Jake. He delivered the punchline, you gave the applause. That was our rhythm. But then I noticed things. His hands looked older than the rest of him. Rough skin, split knuckles, nails jagged like he'd been chewing them between shifts, and the hoodie he always wore smelled faintly of welding smoke with sweat baked in from long days without a break. His texts, once full of dumb memes and one-liners, had dwindled to scraps. Busy. Later. Dead tired. One afternoon I finally asked, "Why are you killing yourself with all these hours? Don't they have other guys on the crew?" He just shrugged, staring into the black coffee cooling in his hands, and said, "Bills don't pay themselves?" The way he said it final, like a period on a sentence. Later that week, I caught a piece of the truth. He was on the phone with his sister in the kitchen, voice low but sharp with fatigue. "Yeah, I sent the payment already, don't worry. They said it covers this round of chemo," he said, and there was a pause. His jaw tightened. "No, it's fine. Mom shouldn't stress about it. She's already fighting enough." Another silence. His shoulders sagged. No, don't say that. I'll figure it out. Somebody's gotta. Dad's gone, and it's just us. She's tougher than me anyway." I froze in the hallway with my hand on the wall. When he hung up, he caught me watching. For a moment his eyes looked bare, like I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to, Then he forced the mask back on and flashed the grin he always pulled when things got too heavy. "Hey," he held up his scarred hands like a comedian doing a bit. "Think I could pass for a hand model? These calluses are kinda sexy, right?" We laughed, or at least I did, but the laugh sat wrong in my stomach, heavy. A few nights later, he showed up at my apartment after another late shift and didn't crack a joke this time, just stared at the floor. I tried to lighten the mood. "What? No new material tonight?" He smirked weakly, but didn't bite, and for a long minute all I heard was the hum of the fridge and his slow breathing until he said quietly, "I like Maya." I blinked. "What?" He rubbed his hands together, rough skin catching on itself. "I've liked her for a while. Not that it matters. She'd never see me that way." I laughed awkwardly, not sure what to say. "Well, yeah, she's into guys with more edge. You're like, the safe one, safe," he repeated, lips twisting into something that wasn't really a smile. "Yeah." I know I shrugged, trying to play it off. "At least she trusts you." That's something he leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Trust doesn't keep you warm at night." I knew Maya's patterns too well. She liked bad boys, musicians with tattoos creeping up their necks, guys who could ghost her for 3 days and she'd still come running. With Jake, it was different. She leaned on him when her car battery died, when she needed a ride home after midnight, when she was short on rent. He was her safety net, not her fantasy. I thought about telling him that, but the words stuck in my throat. How do you say she only calls you when she needs saving to the guy who never hesitated to show up? The very next week, Maya called him. Not me, not Kara, but Jake. And her voice carried through the phone while I sat across from him. "Hey, can you swing by? My new dress is stuck in the hallway. It's too heavy for me." "Please, Jake. You're the only one I can call." He looked at me, tired eyes flickering, then forced a grin. "Guess that makes me Superman," and grabbed his jacket and headed out without finishing his coffee. Hours later, he came back shirt damp with sweat, knuckles scraped. She had me drag that thing up 2 flights, alone. Then built half of it while she FaceTimed some guy. Didn't even notice when I split my hand open on the nails. I blinked. She didn't help at all. He shook his head and stared at the cut on his palm. "Nah." She just kept saying, "What would I do without you, Jake?" His laugh was sharp, bitter. "She'll never have to find out, right?" A few nights later, it happened again. Her sink was clogged, and she didn't even offer to pay for a plumber, he said afterward, hands still smelling faintly of bleach. Just called me at 10 at night like I was on-call staff. He tried to make it sound funny by imitating her voice and tossing in jokes, but the edge bled through. She hugged me when I finished, though. Called me her rock. He spat the word out. You know what it feels like to be a rock? Heavy, cold, always under people's feet. I didn't know what to say, so I laughed weakly and told him he was just being dramatic. But I saw how much he was giving and how little came back. Maya never asked if he was okay, never invited him to dinner after, never sat with him when he looked ready to collapse. He was the one she leaned on, the one she praised as dependable, the one who carried the weight, and each time he walked away from her apartment, his shoulders slumped lower, like the weight stayed with him long after the job was done. Everything was pretty quiet after that, and life rolled on as usual for me. Until a month later, my phone lit up with Jake's name, and when I answered, his voice was ragged and barely there. "She's gone." I froze. "Who?" There was a pause, heavy with static, and then he said it. "My mom. The chemo stopped working. She passed last night." His breath hitched. I was holding her hand when it happened. She said she was sorry. I blinked, struggling to process. Chemo? Wait, she was sick? I didn't know. She was apologizing for making me carry it all. Every bill, every shift, every damn thing. She thought she ruined my life just by needing me. His breathing cracked, heavy and uneven. I worked every hour I could. Paid every bill, covered rent, covered treatment, covered everything while she got weaker. She was all I had. Now it's just me. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, but my attention wasn't really on him because a notification lit my screen. My group chat buzzing about some guy from campus who'd just asked me out, friends sending pictures, rating him, laughing. And I half scrolled while Jake's voice spilled through the speaker, raw and breaking. "I don't know how to do this without her," he whispered. She was the only one who made me feel like I mattered. I bit my lip, feeling awkward and overwhelmed, and said the stock line everyone uses when they have nothing real to give. She's in a better place. Silence stretched, then a faint exhale, and the line went dead. When he texted back, it wasn't about himself, just an invite. Funeral's on Saturday. Hope you can come. At the funeral, he looked like a shell in a suit hanging off him, hands shaking as he greeted people. He cracked a joke at the podium, something about how his mom would haunt him if he didn't say something funny, and everyone laughed, grateful for the release, but I saw his eyes empty like he wasn't even there. Maya didn't even show. Not a call, not a message, nothing. The girl he'd carried on his back for years couldn't bother to sit through an hour of grief, and I wanted to point it out to make him see, but he was already broken, so what good would another crack do? After the service, one of the guys, Mark, pulled me aside. He wasn't just some acquaintance. He'd been with us since college. Improv nights, late drives, cheap diner food after shows, and his face was drawn tight, jaw flexing like he was trying not to snap. "Someone needs to check on Jake," he said. "He's unstable." I went by his place yesterday. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Just sitting there in the dark, blinds closed, room reeking like he hadn't moved in hours. Before I could reply, Kara overheard and snorted, "Unstable? Come on. He's just sad. Don't make it bigger than it is. Men always exaggerate when they're hurting. He'll bounce back." I nodded more out of reflex than conviction. She's right. He's tough. Jake's always been the guy who handles everything. If anyone can push through this, it's him. Mark's eyes narrowed. Handles everything? That's the problem. He always handles everything. He's been carrying his mum's bills, his sister's stress, everyone's crap, without asking for help. And now she's gone. Who's left to carry him? I shifted uncomfortably and muttered something about giving Jake space, about not hovering, but Mark shook his head. Space? He doesn't need space. He needs someone to actually see him before he disappears completely. For a second, I almost snapped back, but when I glanced across the room and saw Jake standing alone with shoulders hunched and eyes miles away, I didn't have the heart to argue. Still, in my head, I clung to the same belief. Men were strong, men recovered. That was what I told myself. But Jake didn't recover. When he finally came over one evening, he looked decades older. Unshaven, eyes hollow, hoodie hanging off him like dead weight. He slumped on the couch and whispered, "I don't think I know how to do this without her," and I didn't have an answer. None of us did, so we gave him silence. A week after the funeral, Jake finally broke his silence. It was close to midnight when my phone buzzed. "Jake. You awake?" I hesitated, thumb hovering, then typed back, "Yeah." "What's up?" 10 minutes later, he was at my door looking wrecked, eyes bloodshot, hoodie drawn tight like he was hiding inside it, hands shoved deep into his pockets as if he was holding himself together by force. And we sat on the couch in the dark with the hum of the fridge filling the silence until he exhaled. "I need to tell you something. If I don't, I'll lose my mind." I nodded and my chest tightened. "It's Maya," he said, voice cracking. "I know she only sees me as the safe one, the backup plan, the guy who fixes things, but I can't keep pretending. She's the only person who makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely invisible." For once he wasn't joking. He was raw and exposed, waiting for something, maybe permission, maybe hope, and I gave him nothing. "Jake, maybe you should tell her," I said weakly, and the words felt hollow even as they left my mouth. Deep down, I knew it would crush him, but I didn't say that. I didn't stop him. A few days later, he did tell her. He'd been at a cafe, and with his heart pounding, he finally said, "Maya, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. I don't want to be just the safe guy. I want more." She smiled at him, soft, almost pitying, and said, "Jake, you're amazing. You really are. But I'm not looking for a relationship right now. I just need to focus on myself." He nodded, swallowing shards of glass, forced out a joke to save her from discomfort. "Yeah, no worries. Guess I'll just stick to building your furniture instead." She laughed, and that was it. End of story, except it wasn't. The next weekend we all went out as a group, and Maya walked in, late hand in hand, with some guy we'd never met, tall and stylish and loud, the exact type she always chased. and she beamed and introduced him like nothing was wrong. I glanced at Jake, and he smiled and clapped the guy on the back and made jokes at his own expense, like always. "Careful, man," lifting his glass. "She's got high standards. You're dating way above your pay grade." Everyone laughed, and Maya laughed the loudest, but when Jake looked at me across the table, his smile faltered. 6 months slipped by, and we stopped hearing from Jake. No texts, no late-night drop-ins. He called me at 3 a.m. once or twice, but I'd assumed it must have been an accident, so I didn't call back. At first, I figured he was busy, then I told myself he just needed space, and eventually I stopped wondering. Maya was deep into her honeymoon phase with the new guy, posting pictures every week, beach trips, rooftop bars, his arms slung around her shoulders. And she never mentioned Jake, none of us did. It was like he'd faded quietly out of the picture. Then one evening, my phone lit up. It was Mark, and I hadn't heard from him in weeks. When I answered, his voice was flat and clipped, like he'd rehearsed the words until they turned to ash. "It's Jake." I sat up. "What about him?" Mark inhaled hard through the receiver. "He's gone." I blinked, not processing. "Gone where?" There was a silence that made my stomach drop. Then, "He killed himself." They found him in his apartment. Neighbor called when the smell got bad. My throat closed. No, that, he wouldn't. But Mark kept going, relentless, like he couldn't stop once he started. He left a note, said he was tired of being invisible, said nobody would notice anyway. And you know what? He was right. None of us did. I hung up before I could hear more. The next morning, the group chat lit up for the first time in months, and Kara typed, "This isn't our fault." He should have reached out. Maya wrote, "I had no idea it was that bad." I stared at the screen and typed something safe. We couldn't have known. He never said anything, but Mark's words wouldn't leave me. Silence isn't strength. It's a warning. The funeral was small, smaller than his mom's, with a few relatives, some old co-workers, Mark, and us. No big speeches this time, no jokes at the podium, just a quiet service in a cold room, where Jake, 27, was reduced to being the funny one in people's eulogies, like his whole life had been trimmed down to punchlines. Afterward, we stood outside in awkward clumps. Kara lit a cigarette, insisting again that he should have reached out. Maya dabbed her eyes, saying she wished she'd known. Then her boyfriend pulled up, and she left with him before Jake's casket was even lowered. Mark didn't say much. He gave me a look that cut deeper than anything, like he wanted to ask, "Where were you?" But didn't bother, because he already knew the answer. That night, I scrolled back through my messages with Jake and saw dozens of little cracks I'd brushed off. Long day texts. Feels heavy sometimes. I don't know if I'm doing enough. Every line I'd met with a shrug, a joke, or a lazy, "You'll be fine." But I told myself that wasn't on me. I wasn't wrong. How could I have been? He never said the words out loud. He never looked me in the eye and admitted he was drowning. If anything, he hid it. He joked, he smiled, he played the role he always played. So what was I supposed to do? Read his mind? I thought back to the late-night texts and the quick "I'm tired" messages and told myself everyone sends stuff like that. Half my friends complain about being exhausted. If I'd treated his words like a cry for help, wouldn't that have been dramatic, smothering? Maybe he would have pushed me away faster. And when he talked about Maya, wasn't it better I encouraged him instead of crushing what little hope he had left? How was I supposed to know she'd end up parading a new boyfriend in front of him a week later? That wasn't my fault. That was hers. Even the funeral. People said he looked empty, but people grieve in different ways. I wasn't blind for not seeing it. I was giving him space, like anyone would. Everyone always says men need space. So no, I wasn't wrong. I couldn't have been. If I start believing I was, then it means I helped push him toward the edge, and I can't live with that.